Hey Royal Family, it's Cash Me Out. I am Queen Supreme, and I'm back at you again for another video in the Maleah Davis case. Now, it seems that the chief from last night's video had spoke out in a press conference today and is demanding help in finding Maleah. Also, he had stated that the public is seeming to forget about Maleah, as this often happens in cases, and also that they have upped Maleah Davis's award of information to $10,000 from $5,000 to $10,000. Now, no further ado, let's get into what the police chief said and a follow-up news clip, and then I will meet you on the other side with my commentary. Let's go.
What's new?
Well, what's new is that we're hopeful that the public hasn't forgotten about little Miss Davis, this little angel that was missing, and it seems like everybody's moved on. We have not, and we're still calling for the public to think back on what they may have seen, any suspicious vehicle behavior, anything that they may know on this case, because we really believe we have a little girl that's been murdered. We believe that she's out there somewhere, and we want to bring her home. And our best force multiplier, our greatest asset, is the community itself. And so we're calling on the community to please, if you know something of where this little baby's at, let us know. Where this little sweet, beautiful child of God is at, let us know, because we want to bring her home. Yesterday, a reporter came in that wanted to kind of talk about it, and one of the things I told him was that there's up to $5,000 reward by Crime Stoppers for information leading to an arrest in this case. And I will say that if I have to personally pay it myself, but I know that I'll get plenty of people to help, we'll add another $5,000 for information that leads to finding her. We want to find her. We want to bring her home. You know, we had a case that this reminds me of, involving a little boy named Colton Turner in Austin a few years back. That I was there when we found him, when the FBI, we found his body wrapped in a little carpet, and underneath about maybe an inch, you know, just maybe a foot at the most of dirt. And I can tell you that when that little boy's body was recovered, that was buried there like he was just some dead cat or something that somebody buried in their backyard, but it was actually in a wooded area, that there wasn't a dry eye. And this is amongst a bunch of hardened FBI crime scene investigators, FBI agents, Austin police officers, and this little baby that we believe is out there somewhere, that we need to get her. We need to get her and bring her home. And so we're asking for the public to please be on the lookout, come forward, provide information, because she needs to be brought home, and that means a proper burial.
Chief, you think your stepfather knows where she is?
Oh yeah, we strongly believe he knows where she's at, and if he wanted to tell us, he would. So, but if he's not telling us, which he's not, we want the public to come forward. Please come forward. When you're out there and you're hiking or you're traversing around places that aren't too populated, that places that are, you know, seldomly traveled, be on the lookout. Let us know. But I really believe in my heart of hearts, somebody knows something. Somebody has seen something, and somebody hasn't come forward.
How would you describe his cooperation today, or lack thereof?
Well, he hasn't told us where she's at.
What has he told you?
He's told us a tall tale, that our investigation has shown that his tales, the evidence does not show that. As a matter of fact, the evidence shows that we believe she's been murdered. And I'm calling on anybody that has any information to let us bring this baby home. Let us bring her home and let us get her a proper burial.
Are the homicide guys working on the assumption you have this accomplice?
Well, I'm not going to talk about that specifics. I know that people are talking about mom and everything else. We're not going. Our focus right now is finding this little baby. Our focus is getting her, recovering her body, And you know, I can sit here and say that we're going to find her alive, but I'd be lying to you.
Well, actually, I was referring to the video. You don't have the video dropped off, but you brought up the mother. Is she cooperating with you? Is she talking to you?
She's talked to police, but again, we're not focusing on that piece of it. The piece that we need right now is we need to find this baby. She deserves to be found. She deserves to be recovered, and she deserves to have a proper burial, and we need the community's help. We need people not to forget. This is not a cat that somebody buried in their backyard. This is a little beautiful, I mean, look at those pictures. If looking at the pictures of that little baby girl doesn't touch your heart, and it doesn't drive you to do everything you can, I'm talking to the community, to help us find her, then I don't think you have a heart, and we want to find her.
So the search right now is still ongoing?
We're still out there following leads, trying to find her, and again, we've got a community of 2.3 million, 2.4 million people in a region of about 6.5 million people. When you're out, and you're out in areas that are areas near bayous, and areas near hiking trails, areas near wooded areas that may be not traveled widely, please be on the lookout.
How much in resources, I guess, manpower, time, whatever, however you measure that, have you got invested in that right now?
Well, we haven't. Well, I don't know off the top of my head. I can just tell you that I know that this baby's out there. We know she's out there. And our greatest chances of finding her is the public, to be out on the lookout. Look for it, you know, look for earth that may be, look like that's been out of place, where you have leaves over here a lot heavier, and over here you might have your, look for things that look like disturbed when you're out there, that looks like it's been disturbed. Look for anything that looks out of the ordinary. Be nosy. This is a time to be nosy, but people talk. And if someone knows something, just know there's up to $5,000 from the Crime Stoppers, Greater Houston Crime Stoppers, up to $5,000 for an arrest in this case, and we'll do another $5,000 from us, just to help us find her. And that's it. That's all I really wanted to say.
Chief, forgive me.
Have anything you want to add?
Sure.
Yeah, hold on. Chief Slinkard wants to add something.
So, again, Chief Slinkard, Executive Assistant Chief over Investigations and Special Operations. To go a little bit further on your question regarding cooperation or lack thereof, needless to say, since we have not gotten the closure that we need in this case, and we have not been able to bring this baby home, we are not receiving the level of cooperation that we need from anybody involved at this point. But we will continue. To your question regarding resources, yes, we have a great deal of resources involved in this effort. Investigations and the investigators assigned under my command will not stop until we get the answers that we need in this case. We will continue. And the greatest resource we can get at this point that we are calling on, the greatest resource that far exceeds the 5,100 men and women that we have, is the 2.3 million and the 6 million approximately in our region that the chief just spoke of, which is each and every one of you. Somebody out there knows something. Somebody out there that we haven't talked to yet, somebody out there in some way connected that can help us, give us the lead that we need. Somebody knows something. So please, you know, if we're not getting the cooperation that we need from those that we have interviewed thus far and those that are involved, then we are calling on anybody out there that has any information to cooperate with us and let us know.
All right, anything else?
And before you do, Chief, discussing what you're saying, how many men do you have assigned specifically?
Well, again, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but needless to say, our homicide investigators are working diligently on the case, and based on based on the level of leads that we get, then we'll adjust resources throughout. Mm-hmm.
Chief, this has probably been asked and answered, but bear with me. You're under the tall tale that this guy.
Yeah.
The only evidence that the injury showed up with was self-inflicted. Do you think what do you guys?
Oh, look, we're not going to get into the details of the case, but let me just say we've got enough evidence. Obviously, already have charges on this. You know, it's silly season. I mean, when you spin a tale that he spun that has you could drive a big rig through it. You could probably drive a NRG through it. That's a problem. Okay.
Is there a point where you could go that you're the department you're willing to talk to the Harris County District Attorney's Office, offer to take capital punishment off the table?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of our ongoing process. But at this point, what we want to focus on today is help find that little baby's body, and that's what we want to focus on. Because even if we were to charge anyone even if we had murder charges tomorrow, I don't want to think about a little baby being in some shallow grave somewhere without the proper burial, because that's not justice. That's my focus today. And again, we were really happy yesterday when a member of the media called wanting to talk about it, because she's kind of been off the grid a little bit. And I don't think that charges would be enough. I think even if we had charges of murder and a conviction, without finding that body, there'd still be a hole left out there. There'd be a hole for people that loved her. And we want to give them the closure of not just of criminal charges, but we want to give them the closure of bringing that baby home. It's kind of like our POWs in Vietnam or the MIAs out there. People want closure, and that's what we're looking for everyone.
Today, Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo not holding back when talking about this case and the last man to see Maleah before she disappeared. Channel 2's Phil Archer is live now with more. Phil?
Yeah, she's been missing for almost 3 weeks now. At that press conference today, Chief Acevedo put out a plea for anyone with information to please come forward and tell police about it. He also doubled the amount of reward being offered to $10,000. As the mound of stuffed animals and flowers from well-wishers grows outside the little girl's apartment, police are still no closer to finding her and no longer expect to find her alive.
We really believe we have a little girl that's been murdered. We believe that she's out there somewhere, and we want to bring her home.
She's been missing since May 3rd, when her stepfather, Darian Vince, claimed armed men stole his car and kidnapped her. Over 100 EquiSearch volunteers searched for her from northeast Houston to Roche Sharon, but no sign.
At this point, we're still following every lead and every call that comes in. I talk to investigators at least twice a day.
Police believe Vince does know where she is, but he's behind bars now, charged with tampering with evidence after police matched blood found in his apartment to Maleah's DNA. And Vince isn't talking.
We strongly believe he knows where she's at, and if he wanted to tell us, he would. So, but if he's not telling us, which he's not, we want the public to come forward.
To develop new leads in the case, HPD has put up an additional $5,000 in reward money, and the chief is renewing the call for the public's help.
Our best force multiplier, our greatest asset is the community itself, and so we're calling on the community to please, if you know something of where this little baby's at, let us know.
Anyone with information is asked to call Houston Crime Stoppers. That reward, again, now up to $10,000.
Now, as I stated in other videos, this case has been a doozy. It seems that left and right, it's just always something or not enough. But I think that it's funny that the police want all this information. However, they're very limited on what they give the public. And I do understand that to a degree. However, it came off very much like a guilt trip, like society and the public isn't doing enough. Look, there's been volunteer search parties, flyers, people that distributed flyers, CPS protesters to cause awareness to this story. Videos have been made. People are going crazy on social media about this story from what I've seen on my social media. So what I'm saying here is to just assume that it's dying out because of the public. I beg to differ. However, Brittany is not seen on camera leaving that building to go to the airport at all, or it hasn't been shown to us. We need to see that. There's other things that need to take place as far as Brittany and questioning of Quanell because Quanell has stated in interviews that he knows more and he will expound on those things as we go, as if he's dangling them around in front of our face, to keep, you know, some way, somehow, him and Brittany in the headlines as far as them getting attention. But we're still looking for Maleah. This woman claims to not know anything, and allegedly the police are just believing that. The chief says that the public is forgetting. I highly doubt that, when every time I go on my Facebook or my Instagram or YouTube, I'm seeing another Maleah Davis video, which is great, because the more that we get our face out there, the more that we talk about this, the more that whoever that somebody is that knows more will feel comfortable maybe coming out, or it will weigh on their conscience to come out. That's what I'm hoping. Now, for, you know, him to state all this and that about the other child, and that's sad about the other child that was found, you know, and the whole FBI and the police and all that were breaking down and stuff like that. But there's also 58 children in that local area that are missing. And, you know, it just seems to me like the police aren't very much doing their job when you have 58 children missing, and now you're just going to the public, like, you know, kind of like in a guilt trip manner. I'm not riding down on him because he came to the public and is demanding information from the public, but the way that he did it was very guilt trippish. Yes, I agree that somebody saw something and somebody knows something. However, just the way that he kind of just drove down on the guilt trip thing, I didn't appreciate that, because I know people in, you know, other states. Like, I'm in Minnesota, way on the other side of America from Texas, and guess what? I'm interested in this case, in finding Maleah. You know what I mean? That's my motive. When they were talking about, or asked how many police that they have dedicated to this case, they chuckled and, you know, couldn't give us a number. And I feel like that was kind of like a slap in the face, because yes, I understand that during certain portions of a case, you may need more or less manpower, police help, or, you know, whatever, dedicated to one portion. However, at the same time as you're asking us, or asking the public to come forward, you're again failing to give the public information. We want that Brittany is looked into more. I don't understand how she just doesn't know anything. Now, the award is allegedly $10,000. They will give $5,000 to any information that leads to an arrest or securing charges, murder charges, and another $5,000, you know, if that happens. The chief said he'll either put it up himself or raise it. And so we have that. Anybody that knows anything, you have a $10,000 incentive. If you know where this little girl is. What would be crazy is if Joseph Vance and them concocted a story or something, or somehow, you know what I mean, did that, and then they got that $10,000 and used that to get Darian Vance out. I mean, that would be kind of weird, but I digress. Now, since the beginning of this story, and we're going to talk about intuitions here, I've always felt like Maleah was in the water. And in this water, I do see a metal sewage drain type of thing. And this is what it looks like, kind of. However, it's not the exact picture. I just went looking for sewage drains until I found one that I had seen in my premonition of what or where Maleah is. I feel like there are other cases where they have drained ponds or lakes, rivers, whatever, to look for children. They actually use the police, the fire department, to drain ponds and other resources to drain these ponds, lakes, rivers, whatever. to find and see if there is a child in there that they were looking for, and one to name exactly is Zara Baker. They drained that pond looking for her. I definitely feel like Maleah is in water. I never felt like she was on land, and I always thought it was kind of stupid that they were looking for her on the land. I may be wrong. Again, I am intuitive. However, I'm not like, I don't claim to be like, the psychic medium, you know what I mean? Like, oh girl, Miss Cleo or whatever. But honestly, I've always felt like she was in water, and I feel like they need divers. I'm aware that there was a flood there, so I don't know what the what it looks like to them, but in my premonition I see her in water, and that black bag is definitely there, and this sewage drain, and the sewage drain is more under the water, and the whole circle of the drain is, the little metal brackets, they go all the way down, not just a little bit. However, that's what I'm seeing, and it's more like underground that this drain is. It's not right by where Maleah is, but it's close. You see what I'm saying? Or that maybe her remains, portion of her remains had broken out of the bag. At this time, we have to think about animals, or anything attempting to get into the bag that she was in. So if she was not scattered around, which that drain may have caught remains of her, or he may have scattered her around, or an animal may have come and opened the bag or whatever. But I do definitely see something by that drain. I'm not saying that it's her. Again, it could be some remains, it could be some evidence, it could be something, but I'm feeling water. I also feel like they need to stand on Quanell X and Brittany's neck. They definitely know more. They came through with all these accusations. Brittany had already talked to police, and then after Quanell X gets involved, she's got all this information now, and then now you want to sparely sprinkle it around like it's Mrs. Dash. I'm not going. She needs to be called into the police department and given a lie detector test and a voice stress test about the disappearance of her daughter. And they need to try to do the same thing on Darian. I don't know how that would go in this case so far because the case is going on, but they should have already did that. I know that all the time it doesn't allegedly stand up in court and stuff like that, but these lie detector distributors or whatever, and the voice stress test people are very trained. And just like those cadaver dogs found the scent of a decomposing body, this lie detector distributor is basically a lie detector test in itself, because they will pick up on things that the average cop may not. But I feel like she needs to be drilled down on. As far as Brittany, I feel like they can definitely do that test. Call her in there, tell her that they need to question her again, and hook her up to the machine, the lie detector machine, and do that stress test also, and do that lie detector as well. And let's get to the basis here, because if she want to claim that she don't know shit, she is interfering with police investigation by pussyfooting around and playing around and hiding behind Quanell as she's been doing, and getting no justice for her daughter. I think that they need to be looking at her. The water has always bothered me, even from the jump. When I first found out about the story, again, I felt that when they were reporting the story that Maleah was already gone. However, I didn't really state that as much, but I feel things, I see things. And when the grandmother and the mom broke down about the water, or got emotional or forced tears, whatever, I feel like that's for a reason, and it just bothers me. Even last night after I put out the video on her mother, I feel like it just bothered me about that water. The water subject keeps coming up, even that Brittany and them broke down, but even with my premonition, that right there is the ceiling of it all. You see what I'm saying? I'm not saying 100%, but I'm saying check water. They've checked all this, land in the woods and all this and that. They need to go ahead and check in some water. Get some divers out. You know what I mean? You can drain some water out. You don't have to drain it all. I've seen this in other cases, but Zara Baker, definitely the pond was drained so that they could attempt to find her body. And we need to start looking at water because the land has failed. It, then they're talking about he was a mail route person and all this and that. I feel like, that there's just somebody just spinning this case. I'm unsure of who it is at this point all the way, but my fingers point at Brittany and Quanell, and definitely Darian, because the story to begin with, that Darian, whatever the fuck, however you spell his name, I'm just gonna spell it how it first came out to the media or whatever. I'm not gonna whatever, but I feel like that story came from Brittany herself. I feel like she really concocted this story because she seems kind of slow in herself. I don't know if Darian's slow, but obviously you gotta be to ever think about harming a little girl or being involved. But this very well may have been that Brittany had did something to that little girl and she died, and he was the person to clean it up, and she was the aggressor in this situation. It could have been that. And I do feel like the police are looking at Brittany. I think that they're being silent about them looking at Brittany. However, I think we need to cut the bullshit, and somebody needs to start talking here. It's long overdue. This child has been gone 3 weeks, and we're going on 4. And no answers, no closer to finding justice for this child. So with that said, royal family, that is my feelings on this situation. And I did get irritated. I found myself at times speaking loudly at the TV while this chief was talking because, like I said, oftentimes they want everybody to give them information, but they're really giving none. And yes, allegedly they're working this case. However, this is only the second time in 3 weeks that they've come out and made a press conference or even came forward. And I find that funny as, Missing Persons Day or whatever. I don't know what the traditional name is for it, but is on the 25th of May. So I find that very funny that, all of a sudden now they're trying to readdress and act like, you know what I mean? I don't know what's going on. They could be working due diligently and hiding these things because it could fuck up their case. I understand that. However, don't pull the guilt trip like the public ain't doing shit. Every video that goes out, every picture that gets changed or posted of Maleah Davis, my Facebook profile picture is Maleah. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm posting whenever I have a thought about it or I think of her. I'm putting something on somewhere, Instagram, something. And the more that girl's picture comes out, I feel like the more that whoever knows something and feel bad that they're not speaking up on getting this girl justice. And like I said, with that said, royal family, that is my commentary on this police chief and his statements that he made. I feel what he's saying, but there's things that he could definitely be doing in this case. Stay you, stay royal, stay uncompromisable. I am kind of feeling under the weather. My allergies are kind of fucking with me, but I'm all right. It's just spring and summer coming and all that shit. But I will be back to you tomorrow with some more information on this story. Hopefully she's found, royal family. Much love.